Welcome to the first episode of Bandit's Wrestling Weekly, where we take a look at all the week's biggest news within the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment, whichever you want to call it. I am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit, and let's get right into the news.
This week we have all the fallout from the Superstar shakeup. We have an update on Sasha Banks and her future with the company. And the War Raiders are called what now?
This past week saw the Superstar shakeup for both Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. Some big moves happening between both brands. Here's who went where. The Miz is back on Monday Night Raw. Now, this one is a good move, but it kind of annoys me because every year of the Superstar shakeup, The Miz has gone from one brand to the other. The first Superstar shakeup, he went from SmackDown to Raw. Then last year's Superstar shakeup, he went from Raw to SmackDown, and now he's back from SmackDown to Raw. I do believe that he is a great addition to the Monday Night Raw roster, given his current persona. The fans are squarely behind The Miz. I really like this. Like I said, it is a good move. I think he's going to continue his feud with Shane. I think the only thing they can do now is maybe a steel cage match, and I think that'll be the final blow off of the feud, and then they can maybe move him to a U.S. Championship feud with Samoa Joe, because the rumors are, and I'll get to this in a second when we talk about SmackDown, right now the rumor is that Samoa Joe is going to be on Raw with Finn Balor being on SmackDown as the Intercontinental Champion, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Another big move from SmackDown to Raw, AJ Styles. I think this is a fantastic move. AJ Styles has done all he can do on the SmackDown Live roster. Time to put him on Monday Night Raw, and he can have some great matches with the likes of Seth Rollins, for instance. He can have some great matches with him. Another big move. I'm kind of on the fence about this one because he was doing so good on SmackDown Live. Maybe he can do as good, or if not better, on Monday Night Raw, but that's Andrade along with Zelina Vega. Another move was Rey Mysterio, so maybe they can finish the feud they had on SmackDown Live on Raw. I think they're going to absolutely just kill it. I think Rey's another good move. He can be good anywhere, and even Rey said himself that he doesn't have too long left on his body to continue wrestling, so 2020 may be the last time we see Rey Mysterio in a ring. Another big move from SmackDown Live to Raw. The Usos, again, like I said about AJ Styles, the Usos have done everything on SmackDown. They have feuded with everybody. Now time to go bolster the sagging Raw tag team division, let's be honest here. And I think they can have some great matches with Revival. They can have some great matches with Hawkins and Ryder. I think this is a good move overall for the Usos. Lacey Evans is now officially on Monday Night Raw. She's going to be challenging Becky Lynch very soon. I'm kind of iffy about that one. We'll see what happens with Lacey Evans. Cedric Alexander coming from 205 Live to Raw. This is a move I'm not too keen on. I actually think that Cedric Alexander is now just going to be fodder on main event. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll wait and see. Ricochet and Aleister Black are now officially on Monday Night Raw. Great for them. I think this is going to be a good move because, like I said before, the Raw tag division severely needs the teams. Naomi joins her husband, Jimmy Uso, I think. Don't quote me on that one. I think this is an okay move. I like Naomi. She's not one of my favorites, but she hasn't had the chance to shine. EC3 is now officially on Monday Night Raw. He got absolutely slaughtered by Braun Strowman. Doesn't really show him in the best of lights. Eric Young is now on Raw. Yeah, just Eric Young, not Killian Dane, not Nikki Cross. She's still kind of free agent. Not Alexander Wolf, effectively breaking up Sanity, which is a big shame. Because Sanity was so good on the NXT roster, they get called up to SmackDown Live and nothing. It was 2 months before they made their main roster debut, and they just lost every match. They go in, raise hell, kick some ass, get squashed. They had a fairly decent tables match with the New Day, which they won, which should have shot them into the stratosphere, but didn't. And then the last time we saw Sanity as a team, The Miz murdered all three of them. Like, the booking of Sanity was just insane, honestly. There was one more move to Raw, which I will talk about later on in this episode, because this one makes... It's not the move itself, it's what happened with this team, and I'll get into that a little later on in this episode. So now we switch to SmackDown Live, and oh boy, did they get some names in this Superstar shakeup. Roman Reigns is now on SmackDown Live. I think that is a fantastic move for everybody involved. It's fantastic for Roman. It gives him a fresh set of opponents to work with. It lets Seth Rollins shine as Universal Champion on the Raw roster without having the Roman Reigns shadow over him. So, with everybody just thinking, oh yeah, Roman's gonna do something to get back in the Raw main event and get the Universal title. Not when he's on SmackDown Live. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Good for Roman. Good for everybody involved. Who else? Elias is now on SmackDown Live as well. I'm kind of iffy on that one. I think he can take his act anywhere and it'll be good. And I think he'll do pretty well on the SmackDown roster. Bayley, Ember Moon, Kairi Sane, Liv Morgan, and Mickie James all going over to SmackDown Live to bolster their women's division. Now, here's what I feel happened. When you take a look at everything that happened for Raw, they got a lion's share of tag teams to bolster their tag team division on the Raw roster. SmackDown Live got a whole host of women to bolster the women's division. Honestly, I think that's a pretty fair trade-off, to be honest and truthful with you. Because look at the talent you're getting. You're getting Bayley. You're getting Ember Moon. You're getting Kairi Sane, former NXT Women's Champion. Like, Bayley, Ember Moon, and Kairi Sane are all former NXT Women's Champions. I think the only one that I'm kind of like iffy on is Liv Morgan. Because she had the Riot Squad over on Monday Night Raw to have her back. Now she's basically on her own. Will she be able to do something on her own now? I guess only time will tell with that one. Now this was a confusing one because they said he was on Monday Night Raw, but now he's on SmackDown. What I think is going to happen with him is he's just going to bounce between the two of them. Like, I'm a freak, I'll do whatever I want. But right now, officially, Lars Sullivan is on SmackDown Live. Like I said, I think that's going to flip-flop between the two of them, between the two shows, and they're going to be like, what's Lars Sullivan doing on Monday Night Raw? I do whatever I want, I'm a freak. I don't know where they're going to go with this, because I thought they had something started with Rey Mysterio, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Finn Balor, I already talked about taking the Intercontinental Championship with him. Now, when I heard this trade, I was like, okay, now SmackDown Live has the two major mid-card titles. What's going to happen? But everything that I've heard is that Samoa Joe was supposed to come over to Raw, but unfortunately he had the flu, so I guess we'll have to see what happens with that next week. And then Apollo Crews, I run hot and cold on Apollo Crews sometimes. You know, he'll do really good, but then we'll just bring him back down again, and bring and do this and that and this and that with him. We'll see what happens with him. Chad Gable is back on SmackDown Live. Yay! I actually wanted to see where this whole heel turn thing was going with him and Bobby Roode, because honestly, I wanted him to turn heel on I wanted Bobby Roode to turn heel on Chad Gable and have them start a feud, because let's face it, Bobby Roode is just a better heel overall. And then the final names for the SmackDown Live roster: Heavy Machinery. I'm probably going to catch a whole lot of heat for this. I am not a fan of Heavy Machinery at all. I'm not a fan of their in-ring work. Not a fan of their characters. I'm absolutely annoyed by Otis, especially at WrestleMania this year when he's standing in the ring and goes, "I'm coming!" And then there's just a whole nonsensical crap that he says. Hey, pretty lady. What is he, a fat Jerry Lewis? So no, I am not a fan of Heavy Machinery in the slightest, but those were all the trades from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown and 205 Live and NXT. Like I said, there's one that I'm going to get to a little later on in this episode, but we have something else to talk about, that being updates around the Sasha Banks situation. It was reported after WrestleMania 35 that Sasha Banks was displeased with having her Women's Tag Team Championship reign with Bayley cut short, as she felt she believed that they were going to have a longer reign as tag team champions. Now, rumors persisted throughout the weeks that she was upset that they were dropping the titles to the Iconics, but that was not the case, because shortly after, we saw on Sasha's Instagram account that there was a picture of her and Bayley with the Iconics after they won the tag team titles, which would, in essence, disprove that. She wasn't upset that they dropped the titles to the Iconics, but she was more displeased with the fact that she felt she was lied to. That she was told that her and Bayley would have a long reign, and they dropped the titles at WrestleMania, and they were also told the day of WrestleMania that they'd be splitting the team up and Bayley would be going to SmackDown Live. Since then, it has come out that Sasha Banks actually tried to ask for her release from the WWE. She was sent home the Tuesday following WrestleMania, and it was basically just, they told her, think it over, we'll give you some time off, and, come back and make your decision, and hopefully they want her back by Money in the Bank, but there are rumors going around right now that she's going to no-show that event, and that's basically where we stand right now. A report came out from Brad Shepard of the You Didn't Know podcast, stating the following.
According to sources in WWE, Sasha was given a couple of weeks off as of Tuesday morning. Apparently, she's very upset about being split up from her friend and tag team partner, Bayley, after this week's Superstar shakeup. She is also adamant that the problem isn't with the Iconics, but WWE's producers and writers. Sasha and Bayley were told their reign as tag team champions would last past the next show in Saudi Arabia.
So we will definitely have more on the Sasha Banks situation as it progresses. And finally, let's talk about what everyone's been talking about this past week. In addition to all the other names that I mentioned earlier about the Superstar shakeup, a certain NXT tag team was also called up to the main roster. A certain NXT Tag Team Championship team, might I add, who currently on NXT are called the War Raiders, who are now called the Viking Experience on the main roster. Now, I've heard several rumors going around saying that, I can see why, because the word war, that doesn't exactly fly with advertisers. But then again, Amber Moon is called the War Goddess, so that chucks that theory right out the window. So I think this is just Vince McMahon being totally out of touch with reality. That's all I can think of. The man has lost his marbles, and it is definitely time for Triple H to step in and step up as the new producer of things. But this is just my opinion now, and we're talking about the news. So yes, and the best part about this is that they're not even Rowan Hansen anymore. They're Eric and Ivar. Couldn't nail that on the head anymore, could you, Vince? Yeah. Now, there was a lot of flack for the WWE when it was announced that War Raiders had signed with the WWE, because on their name in ROH, New Japan, on the Independents, was War Machine. Now, I can see why the WWE would change their name to War Raiders, because, they didn't want to get sued by Marvel for the name War Machine. I think there's an MMA fighter named War Machine, but he's a piece of crap, so we won't even talk about him. So I can see why the WWE would change their name to War Raiders, and everyone was just freaking out over that. War Raiders is the worst name ever, blah, 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 blah. I like War Raiders. It suits them perfectly. Viking Experience, it sounds like a meal at Denny's. It sounds like a Disney World attraction. There are other not-so-PG things that I've read that it sounds like. But the Viking Experience, no, that is such a lame name. If you're going to go with the name... Originally, Vince McMahon, or I don't know if it was Vince, but the original name they had them under was the Berserkers. Now, that's not as good as War Raiders, but it's a hell of a lot better than Viking Experience. And then last minute, Vince McMahon changed their mind. Nope, we're going to call them the War Raiders, or we're going to call them Viking Experience. Vince, that is so lame. But, you know, this is Vince McMahon we're talking about. Everybody's like, oh, yes, Mr. McMahon, that's such a great idea, Mr. McMahon. Vince needs that one guy to say, that is a freaking terrible idea, Vince. But then again, knowing Vince, he'd probably fire him. Hey, a writer got fired after Bret Hart's Hall of Fame induction speech for the Hart Foundation on Saturday before WrestleMania. So, but yes, they are now called Viking Experience on the roster. Now, I watched, when they were War Machine, I watched them in ROH, WCPW, now Defiant Wrestling, and they are awesome. Like, even the stuff they're doing in NXT is incredible. The match they had with Aleister Black and Ricochet at TakeOver New York before WrestleMania was fantastic. Everyone's saying that Pete Dunne versus Walter was match of the year candidate. I don't know what match they were watching. That match was good, but it wasn't match of the year candidate material. Now, War Raiders versus Ricochet and Black, that's match of the year material. That match was fantastic. That was my favorite match of the entire weekend. So, if anyone can overcome a stupid name, it's War Raiders, Viking Experience, War Machine, whatever you want to call them. But like I said, yes, it's a stupid name, but I think that they can overcome it, and maybe somewhere down the line, Vince will wake up and call them something better. Like, just call them the Vikings. Call them the Viking Raiders. Even that one's better. You can call them Ragnarok. That would have been such a kick-ass name. Like, coming to the ring, Ro Hansen, Ragnarok. Ugh! Of course, you know, there'd still be people complaining about it, but, you know, maybe none of those sound as bad as the Viking Experience. It's just, you know, like I said, it sounds like a Disney ride, you know. Pirates of the Caribbean, woo! Pirates. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who's lost touch. I don't know. But, yeah, this one frustrates the hell out of me. When my friend texted me about this, and aren't War Raiders the NXT Tag Team Champions? Last I checked, yeah, they're on the main roster now. Oh, good for them. They're called Viking Experience. Oh my god, that is so lame. But we'll see how, like I said, they're good enough that they can overcome this, but this is still a lame name overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode of Wrestling Weekly. There's going to be more coming very, very soon. Like we'll see what next week brings for more news. But until then, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment, share wherever possible. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, tap that bell and you'll be notified whenever a new video goes live. I'm the Bandit. Take care, and that's a 3 count.